And most significantly, they point out, why is it that most of the time, most of the autistic individuals are not looking at the keyboard?
Welcome to another video critique of facilitated communication. This week's video was sent in by one of our listeners, thank you, and was posted on the AZPM YouTube channel. Joshua. At the time of the video, 21-year-old Joshua was being subjected to a form of facilitated communication called rapid prompting method. Within 30 seconds of the start of the video, we see that the facilitator is holding onto Joshua's forearm. This raises a red flag in terms of facilitator influence over letter selection. Joshua also has his shirt pulled over his face and appears to have his eyes closed during letter selection. We'll look at that issue more closely in a minute. An FC-RPM hybrid. Generally, with RPM, the facilitator holds the letterboard in the air and does not touch their client, as seen in this video clip with RPM founder Soma Mukhopadhyay and her client, Samantha. RPM proponents erroneously claim that when the letterboard is held in the air, the facilitator can't influence letter selection. But see how the letterboard drifts in space? Let's look at that clip again. Facilitators often non-consciously move the board around in the air to aid in letter selection. Here's one of Joshua's facilitators holding the board in the air. Links to more information about facilitator cueing and control are available in the description box below this video. Joshua's facilitators, at times, mount the keyboard on a table. Which reduces the chances of facilitator influence over letter selection. But holding onto Joshua's arm negates any benefits from not holding the letterboard in the air. According to this FC-generated facilitator-dependent message, Joshua needs physical touch to know where his body is in space.
I started spelling with rapid prompting method when I was 13. I loved it, but I felt I needed physical support to feel my body in space.
In other words, RPM didn't work, so facilitators went back to traditional touch-based FC. For more information about authorship testing and FC, please check out the controlled testing section of our website. FC, rapid prompting method, spelling to communicate. Joshua's facilitators are calling the technique they're using spelling to communicate, but also refer to it as rapid prompting method. Well, using traditional touch-based facilitated communication, which was discredited in the mid-1990s here in the United States. We've collected over 20 pseudonyms for FC on the home page of our website. The common denominator in all these variants of FC is the behaviors of the facilitators that overtly or covertly control letter selection. One of Joshua's facilitators uses her hand to block letter selection. If his communications are independent, then why is she preventing him from touching the letterboard? Other facilitator cues controlling behaviors include but are not limited to verbal cues, changes in vocal inflection, controlling access to the letterboard or stencil, using hand signals to indicate where on the letterboard to touch, moving the letterboard in the air, holding or touching their client's wrist, forearm, elbow, shoulder, neck, or other body part, and using changes in pressure to signal where on the letterboard to touch, maintaining eye contact on the letterboard when the client is not looking at it, shifts in body weight, rocking back and forth, or moving their body in the shapes of letters to signal where on the board to touch, head nods, or other movements, tilting the letterboard up or down, left, right, forward, and back to aid in letter selection. Who is looking at the letterboard? One major criticism of FC, S2C, and RPM is that the facilitators are almost always looking at the letterboard during letter selection, while the clients have their eyes closed or are looking somewhere other than at the letters being selected. Here, Joshua rarely looks at the letterboard. But can people type with one finger without looking at the keyboard, as proponents claim? Producer John Palfreman investigated this issue for his 1993 documentary, Prisoners of Silence.
And most significantly, they point out, why is it that most of the time, most of the autistic individuals are not looking at the keyboard? It's certainly true that a touch typist can type without looking at the keyboard. Connie Cesari, star graduate of the Catherine Gibbs School, can type 100 words a minute without looking. She has memorized the layout of the keys. But before starting, she registers her hands in a home position. This is her reference. Frontline wanted to see if she could type with one finger without looking. Despite her intimate knowledge of the keyboard, she can't. Nobody can. Without a reference, it's just impossible.
Nonverbal behaviors. Facilitators are taught to ignore verbal and nonverbal behaviors and only give weight to the typed, facilitated messages. Along with spoken language, protestations or aggressive behaviors like hitting, biting, and scratching are ignored, but could be the only way the individuals being subjected to FC have to let their facilitators know they don't want to participate or that they want the facilitator out of their personal space. Accuracy of letter selection. Another problem with using plastic letterboards is documenting the accuracy of letter selection. Sometimes facilitators call out letters that individuals have not touched. Here's a sample from a video critique I did of another speller. The young man's facilitator claimed he was spelling the word Y-E-S. The yellow dots indicate where he touched the letterboard in relation to the letters the facilitator thought he touched. Using an iPad independently. We are told by the facilitators in the video that Joshua needs support because of limited motor skills. However, he is shown here interacting with the iPad independently and without facilitator influence. He's also able to grasp food and feed himself, which requires similar fine and gross motor skills as selecting letters on a keyboard. Why, then, does he need someone to hold his hand while he types? Summary. Today's video analysis was requested by one of our listeners. Thank you. And raises questions about facilitator cueing and control over letter selection, in a technique Joshua's facilitators are calling spelling to communicate. Facilitated communication, FC, has many different names, but the common denominator is facilitator behaviors that often inadvertently control letter selection. Although it's not possible to determine the extent of Joshua's academic language and literacy skills based on the YouTube video, there are some red flags that suggest that the FC-generated messages may not be his own. These include, but are not limited to, facilitator touch at the forearm, facilitator moving the board in the air during letter selection. Facilitator looks at the board during letter selection, but Joshua does not. Protestations, lashing out and hitting during FC sessions. The science. To date, there is no scientifically rigorous evidence to prove facilitated communication, spelling to communicate, rapid prompting method, or any of their variants produce independent communication. Controlled studies show that the facilitators, not their clients, are producing the typed messages. Many organizations oppose the use of facilitator-reliant techniques. These include, but are not limited to, American Speech-Language Hearing Association, American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, American Psychological Association, Association for Behavior Analysis, Association for Science in Autism Treatment. This educational video is intended to draw attention to the problem of facilitator cueing in a technique called facilitated communication. FC has many names, including, but not limited to, supported typing, spelling to communicate, rapid prompting method, speller's method. Criticisms in this video are not intended for those being subjected to FC use. For more information about FC, please check out our website at facilitatedcommunication.org. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment to help grow this project. Thank you for watching until the very end, and remember, FC is not science.